Hello, my fellow YouTubers. This is Shadows and Dust here with another episode of the best Gundam models period. We'll see nothing but the best Gundam models ever. So for today, we're taking a look at the Gundam Mark II. And as you can see, it's not just the HG Revive Gundam Mark II, but the original HD Gundam Mark II as well. And we're specifically looking at the HGUC version. If you don't know what the HGUC is, it's the Anti-Earth Union Group. So the old HG is specifically the one that comes with the G Defensor to form the Super Gundam. We'll be looking at the G Defensor in the next episode. So the first thing we're going to look at is the coloration. And we'll start by looking at the manual. As you'll see, the colors on the manual aren't quite anime accurate. Instead of a light purplish gray, which we should have for the joints and the hands, we have a dark bluish gray on the manual. And the front and back cameras are also painted green in the manual, but they should be blue. With that out of the way, we can start looking at how I painted these guys. Now, if we split the original Gundam Mark II in half, should just take a second. It's kind of a long peg. You will see that the plastic for the joints is actually a very dark gray, when it should be slight purplish gray, or medium purplish gray, I should say. So, if you want your Gundam Mark II to be completely color accurate, you're going to have to paint that. Otherwise, they both come in kind of a light gray off-white, and I painted them in a color that's a bit darker than that. I used Celestra Gray by Citadel. The dark blue that I used for both is different. I used Night Lord's blue on the old one and Cantor blue on the new one. Mainly because at the time I painted the new one, Night Lord's blue wasn't a color. And then we'll take a look at the eyes and the cameras, which I painted differently. For the eyes on the new one, I didn't have to paint them. I just painted the black around the eyes because they come in a clear dark green. And then for the cameras front and back, I used Tamiya clear blue over silver by the shining silver by the Army Painter. Whereas with this guy, the old one, I used Shining Silver by the Army Painter with Citadel contrast paints over the top. For the eyes and sensors, I used Warp Lightning, and for the front and back cameras, I used Frostheart. Also, the backpacks, if you want them to be color accurate, you'll have to paint them. They come in the same blue as the torso. They should be a really dark gray or black. For the new one, I used Abaddon black, and for the old one, I used the Army Painter's Necromancer cloak. Also, the yellows that I used to paint them are different. For the old one, I used Citadel's Uriel yellow, whereas for the new one, I used a custom mix of Uriel yellow, Wild Rider red, and Fire Dragon bright. The rest of the colors are the same. I used Warp Fiend gray for the purple joints, and Celestia Gray for the light gray, and Mephiston Red for the red. I also put a few water slide decals on the Revive version that come with the Zeta Gundam decal set. Now we'll go through articulation and details differences at the same time. I wasn't expecting this as far as details go, but the old one is a little bit taller than the Revive version. And as I bring them, maybe I shouldn't bring them both closer. But there's some detail differences on the front skirts, the knees, and there are also some ugly seams on the old one. On the head, there's a seam going right down the middle. It goes through the cameras as well, right down the middle of the shoulders and down the middle of each leg, also down the middle of each forearm. Now you can't see the ones on the forearm or on the thighs because I cleaned those up. I puttied them and glued them, sanded them. No seams. But for articulation, on the old one, the head is just on a single ball joint. Can't really look up or down. You can turn it side to side a little bit. Just have to watch out for that collar. The shoulders have an up and down joint. Swing back and forth barely. They're on a peg. Go up about that far. They're on a single joint at the elbow. There's a bicep swivel, and the hands are on a ball joint. Going back to the top of the hands, you'll notice the hands are different. For the Revive, you actually get the All Gundam Project hands, which are really small, out of proportion, and I think are just kind of ugly. So I didn't use those. I used the HD Builders Parts hands. Now, unfortunately, with the HD Builders Parts, you don't get any holding hands, just closed fists, open hands, and trigger finger hands. So there's no using the beam sabers with this kit anymore. The original also has ugly hands. They're like gorilla hands with how big they are, but I think they're better than the All Gundam Project hands. Going back to the articulation, there's a swivel at the waist. It's just on a peg. Front skirts are molded together. Probably could separate them. There's a bar, but it's got a flange on it, so if you separate them, the skirts just won't fall out. Side skirts move up and down. For thighs, they're on a ball joint. You can kick them this far forward, move this far back. Also, this part on the thigh, this top part, you'll have to paint that. Otherwise, it's just molded with this other part here, the armor part. Legs, got a double joint at the knee. You're only getting about that much. It's not the worst. Could be worse. Couldn't swivel this much on that ball joint. The ankle armor moves up and down. Getting an ugly seam in the middle of that. Foot moves up and down, side to side on that ball joint. And forgot to paint that. But yeah, You'll have to paint the little details, little purple details on the bottom of the feet if you want those accurate. And the toe moves up and down slightly. As for the Revive, the head is on it's on a hinge and a ball joint. So you can get some of that some movement. Forgot to mention on both kits, these beam saber holders are on ball joints, so they can be moved around. Also on both kits, you have to paint the red in the thrusters if you want them to be color accurate. Got a little bit of paint rub from the bazooka here. You have a hinge poly cap that goes up and down. Shoulders on ball joints, so they'll move forward and backward on that ball joint. You can get pretty decent bend or pretty decent raise out of that shoulder. There's a bicep cut, double jointed elbows. Wrists are on ball joints. There's, the waist is a little bit loose on this, so it'll come off sometimes when you want to do an ab crunch. But yeah, there's an ab crunch. And the bottom of the waist is also on a ball joint, so you can get a little bit of side-to-side movement there. Waist will turn. Front skirts are molded together, but can be separated. They are on ball joints. Side skirts will move out. You have a thigh cut. You have another joint that allows the hips to move up and down together. Also on this top section of the thigh is a separate piece. Get a double joint at the knee. You have a hinge here right above the ankle, and then the ankles themselves are on ball joints. The ankle armor will move up and down. Then I think there's a toe joint. I could be wrong. Yeah, no toe joint. Now that we've looked at the articulation, it's time to look at the accessories for both. Starting out, we'll look at the beam sabers. Now, to use the beam saber with the old one, you get this abomination. It is a hand with a beam saber molded onto it, and you have to paint the beam and the hand. The only thing that's the correct color is the hand cover and the saber that's molded into the hand. And it actually doesn't look that bad. For full effect, you'll want to remove this beam saber. Now it does have a little hole in it in the end, so you can put a modern beam saber blade in there and put it in the left holding hand. For the Revive version, it has a simple slot that connects there. It's not hollow on the connecting side like with the old version. And the beam saber blade will just peg in there like this. And if I had a holding hand for this, I'd use that holding hand to hold this. I'll reattach beam saber handle. Alright. Alright. Next accessory we shall look at will be the beam rifle. And for that we will need to attach the trigger finger hands. So as you can see, the two beam rifles are similar looking. They're roughly the same size, pretty much the same details. The side pegs that stick out are different on both of them. And the side handle is a bit smaller on the Revive. And there's no trigger guard in the Revive, so that it doesn't look absolutely ridiculous when you put it in the All Gundam Project hands. To use this gun, I have to take the hand apart, take the back off of the hand for the old one. I have to take the back of the hand off for the old high grade. So you can just slide it in there like this. And it actually fits pretty nicely in there. There's no peg to secure it. Lens is painted. There's no peg to secure it, the hand, but it fits nicely. Now, with the HD Builders Parts hands, just take the fingers off like that. Slide them back on. And there you go. Beam rifle equipped. Now the next accessory we shall look at is the bazooka. I have a little bit of paint rub on the Revive version from storing it on the back skirt. Both have a movable handle. With both of them, you'll have to do some painting because they just come molded in the same color as the joints. The magazine is bigger and the barrel is longer on the Revive version. And this will fit in the hand as well. Same thing with the old version. But with both versions, you can store it on the back skirt. So if you plan on doing this option for the Revive, you're gonna have to file this out. Don't be lazy like me. But it fits quite perfectly. You're not gonna, pretty good. The new one, you're not gonna have much paint rub or anything. With the old one, I mean. Our next accessory will be the Vulcan headset. Both of them just come molded in the same color for the joints. The old one is much larger than the Revive one. And you also have this ugly seam right here. But luckily the seam doesn't go down the middle of the sensor lens. So, there are two pegs on the inside, two notches on the side of the head. And they plug in just like that. It's the same with the old HD. The old HGUC, I should say. And the final accessory we're going to look at is the shield. Now the inside of the shield comes in just that off-white color, so any details you want to have is a different color. You're going to have to paint, although this piece that has the extra magazines for the beam rifle is molded in the same color as the joints for both shields. You can also take the shield apart and collapse it like that with both versions. So to put this on the arm, got a peg here, hole here on the back of the arm. We've got a peg here and a hole in the back of the arm. That just slots right in. Same thing with the old HGUC. Peg here, hole here. Also, you have the option of using, there are 2 pegs on this holder for the old HGUC. So you can have the shield on the back of the arm or on the side. I much prefer it on the side. And there you go. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Best Gundam Models Ever, where I will talk about the G Defensor. I leave you now with a photo montage and some music. This song is called The Kingdom of Shadow.